Hi, this is the video for Daf Peh Het, page 88 of Masechet Ketubot. I am Joshua Kulp from the Conservative Yeshiva in Jerusalem. I am going to be talking a little bit about a literary phenomenon, something a little that I touch on times, about the academic study of Talmud and maybe the types of questions, types of things that interest academic study of Talmud. The sugya on the bottom of page 87, leading into page 88, is about the clause in the Mishnah that if one witness testifies that she had already received the ketubah, she needs to take an oath that she didn't collect the ketubah. To recall, she comes to her husband or to the inheritors and says, I didn't receive the ketubah, and I want to be paid. One witness comes and says she already received it. She has to take an oath that she did not receive it. Because if two witnesses had said she received it, she would get no ketubah. If no witnesses were there, she could collect without an oath. But since we're not sure, so since there's one witness, she has to take an oath and then she can collect. And Rami Bar Chama about this thinks it is a biblical oath, which would be a stronger form of an oath, because it's written in the Torah that lo yakum ed echad beish lechol avon v'chol chatat. A one person does not valid testimony for a person when it comes to sins or penalties. And he says, no, that's only that it's not one witness is not sufficient for sins or for penalties, but it is sufficient to make her obligated for a vow. And anytime two witnesses would make her someone obligated to pay, one is sufficient to make them person obligated to take an oath that they don't have to pay. Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because at the very beginning of the page, referring to another section of the Mishnah, we also had Rami Bar Chama say the exact same thing. Rami Bar Chama thought it was a biblical oath that this woman had to take. And then comes along Rava, both in our case at the end of 87, top of 88, and on the top of 87 in really last week's daf. Rava says there are two answers, Shtei Tshuvot b'davar, and he uses basically the exact same words as appear above. And he also comes up with an answer that it's d'Rabbanan. The vow is d'Rabbanan. He says something a little bit different in each case, about why we need the oath. Over here, we need the oath kedei lehafis da'ato shel habal, in order to put the husband at ease. And Rishonim and biblical and Talmudic critics would both ask the kind of question, why did Rami Bar Chama make the same error twice? What is he doesn't understand, Rava raises the same kushiot on him. If Rava corrected him once, then what, he's going to make the same mistake twice? Now, I know you're saying, I make the same mistakes twice. All human beings do. The question is really not just would he make the same mistake twice, but why would the Gemara record him making the same mistake twice? So Rishonim come up with their own terutzim and say, really, he made the mistake only once, but the Gemara repeats it for our edification. It's sort of a defense of Rami Bar Chama. But I would say Talmudic critics ask the kind of question, well, is it really possible that the same sugya, same discussion appeared twice in two different contexts? Rather, can we determine, and this is a big question in Talmudic criticism, what the original context of this discussion was? And we would look for clues such as, does the discussion make more sense in this place or another place? Did Amoraim, after this discussion was over, continue to discuss it in this place or in the other place? Are there literary clues that would lend to the assumption that the discussion was originally in one context, and an editor came and moved it to another context? And I would say that's a big difference, a big hallmark of critical Talmudic thinking, is really attributing more work to the process of editing the Talmud, the continue attribution and maintain transmission of these statements from generation to generation. What role did editors take in literarily editing them, in redoing their content, contexts, in repeating them, in moving them from one place to another. They're literary types of questions that are not really the historical types of questions. We don't look at it as much as a historical text of an exact transcription of discussions that took place in the rabbinic academies, but really a literary document where we can ask the kinds of questions: how did the editor shape and refashion the material that he had received? That's something that I've dealt with in my book, Reconstructing the Talmud, and I've dealt with it throughout a lot of my life and learned it from my teachers, who are mostly critics in the sense of literary critics of the Talmud.